Welcome back to Recap Junkies. Today we're diving into the chilling 1984 sci-fi thriller Iceman. In the freezing expanse of the Arctic, a team of workers is digging deep within a frozen cave when they come across an unusual find encased in ice. They carefully extract a large block of ice containing the mysterious object, and it's transported by helicopter to a nearby lab. The scientists working at the lab quickly realize the importance of their discovery and immediately send a message to the excavation company, requesting that all further drilling operations be halted. They also ask for an expert to investigate what's inside the ice block. Soon, anthropologist Dr. Stanley arrives at the lab. Stanley, an expert in Arctic studies and the culture of Eskimos, is introduced to Dr. Diana and the rest of the scientific team. The team believes they've uncovered a prehistoric animal, drawing inspiration from the Russian discovery of a mammoth with viable cells in 1898. They are hopeful that their find may provide similar breakthroughs. The team begins carefully slicing the ice layer by layer, using a laser to avoid harming the creature inside. However, to their astonishment, they discover that it's not an animal but a Neanderthal human, preserved in the ice for tens of thousands of years. Stanley examines the body and determines that this Neanderthal likely lived between talking to the people of Cuba for 1,000 years in the past and solved crimes, leads to greater comfort, and improves CMS signals. The team examines the body and determines that it's also the size of a Neanderthal. The team, on the other hand, is more focused on dividing the body into pieces for further analysis, hoping to send samples to various research centers across the world. The scientists begin thawing the Neanderthal and remove his clothes and tools to conduct tests on his tissues. They hook him up to a brain monitoring system, discovering that his organs and cells are in remarkably good condition. Dr. Diane suggests that ancient humans may have had cryoprotectants, special cells that prevent the crystallization of tissue in cold environments. The team is eager to revive the Neanderthal, and after some tests they begin to notice faint brain activity. They decide to attempt resuscitation, using defibrillators to stimulate his heart and eventually bringing the Neanderthal back to life. Mabel is watching everything on the cameras and is amazed by how much Charlie can say.
At this point, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more gripping stories. Hit the bell icon to stay updated with our latest content. We appreciate your support.
One night, while they sit around the fire, Stanley begins to sing a song. Charlie enjoys it and encourages him to keep singing. As he plays with bones from his meal, Charlie makes some happy noises, singing along. Later, the scientists put Charlie to sleep again to take more samples and start a new experiment. They place him in a special chamber with a very low temperature, hoping this will activate the cryoprotectants in his body, making it easier for them to extract them. Stanley continues to protest, saying they're hurting Charlie and treating him like a lab animal. As Charlie's heartbeat slows down, the scientists realize they need to stop the experiment. They take him out of the chamber, and back in the vivarium, Charlie is angry, yelling at Stanley. As a man of music, he's upset about all the experimenting and the new scars on his body. Suddenly, Charlie jumps and pretends to attack Stanley, hitting the ground with his spear and poking his chest, asking Stanley to help him die. Stanley refuses, and after some struggle, he leaves the vivarium. Later, Stanley privately asks Diane for help. He feels that all the studies are pushing Charlie away, making it harder to communicate with him. Stanley suggests that Diane join him in the vivarium, hoping her presence might calm Charlie. When they enter, they find Charlie with wounded hands, using rock powder to draw a bird on the ground from his scars. Diane gets knowledge when Charlie runs toward her, but after sniffing her, he shares his food with her. Diane eats it, not wanting to offend him, even though it's made from bugs. Charlie continues to be friendly at first, but then starts touching her inappropriately. Stanley quickly stops him, and a tense moment follows, where Stanley uses the Neanderthal word for mine to make Charlie back off. Later, Charlie brings items from his cave, trying to exchange them for Diane, but Stanley refuses. When Charlie sees Diane, he becomes sad, repeating the same words over and over. Mabel studies this and believes she has found Charlie's word for woman, though she's unsure about something else. Stanley and Diane try to make Charlie explain the words, and he draws pictures, showing that he had a wife and children. He starts running around, repeating those words, and Diane realizes he's asking where his family is. Their conversation is interrupted by a helicopter overhead. Charlie sees it and panics, climbing the rocks while repeating "Beta," which means bird. The scientists try to make the helicopter leave, but Charlie won't calm down. He climbs to the top of the vivarium, still shouting "Vita." Later, Stanley visits an Eskimo tribe and shares the words Charlie said, which the tribe recognizes. Stanley rushes back to the lab to tell Diane. Ta refers to Sedna, a legend of a large bird that acts as God's messenger, carrying people to heaven or hell based on their actions. Stanley theorizes that Charlie's tribe died when the magnetic poles flipped, killing all the animals. Charlie likely saw it as a punishment from God and went on a dream walk, hoping to find the bird and offer himself in exchange for the animal's return. Charlie now believes the helicopter is Sedna and has no way to calm him down. 34 hours later, Charlie is dressed in all the clothes, tools, and trinkets Stanley has given him. He paints his skin with crushed berries and constantly chants, waiting for his God to return. Whenever Stanley enters the vivarium, Charlie hides, refusing to interact. One day, Charlie takes the stairs, remembering what he's seen Stanley does. He sneaks into the lab, carefully moving through the hall so the scientists don't see him. He finds a mirror and growls at his reflection, thinking it's another man challenging him. Charlie breaks the mirror with his spear and hears a voice from the speakers, which scares him. He runs through the hallway, entering a room with lab animals. After examining a bird, he is startled by a bear's growl and keeps moving. He tries to go through another corridor but crashes into glass doors. He tries again and the doors open, leading him into another room. He's frightened by the sound of a moving vehicle and hides behind a copy machine, accidentally turning it on. He runs away, but when startled by an elevator, he enters a lab and breaks a jar with acid, slightly burning his hand. The lights suddenly go off, causing Charlie to panic. He climbs on the furniture, slipping and breaking equipment. A scientist hears the noise and enters, turning the lights back on. Charlie attacks, killing the man with his spear. Afterward, he runs again, becoming more frantic when he hears the alarm. He finds a tunnel that gets colder, and when he reaches a fire exit, he runs outside. He sees the helicopter and chases after it. The pilot hits him with the skis to knock him out. The scientists finally rescue Charlie and bring him back inside. Moments later, they examine X-rays that show Charlie has no broken bones or head injuries. The scientists are angry with Stanley, blaming his research for the death of their colleague. They announce that the experiments are over and Charlie will be transferred to another facility. Stanley tries to explain that Charlie will die if he's kept in a cage, but the scientists ignore his concerns. Determined, Stanley secretly makes a deal with the guard at the door. Soon, Stanley enters the vivarium with furs to protect Charlie from the cold. He takes Charlie for a walk, but the scientists realize they're missing and follow their footprints in the snow. As they walk, an ice shelf starts to fall, and a crevasse opens, separating Stanley and Charlie. When the helicopter finally finds them, Charlie gets excited, shouting onto the helicopter's skis. He happily chants during the flight. One of the pilots reaches for him, but Charlie lets go and falls, gliding for a few miles before meeting his end.